Hi, you're with India Post Live, India's first online news conversation web TV. I'm Ishan Russell, and India Post is, of course, a forum for you to participate in. Comment via social media. Use Twitter to get in touch with us. Hashtag India Post Live to your tweets, or use our Twitter handle at India Post Live. You can also use Facebook. We have a Facebook page. You can go check it out. We have a lot of comments and contests also often running over there. So go participate and comment. And you can also use IndiaPostLive.com. That's the URL. That's our website. Go over there. Watch this video live right now. In case you're not watching it live, you can even check out the other videos that are there down there for you to check out. So go ahead, comment on the wall and do participate. You can come in via Google Hangout and Skype also if you want, and participate and ask questions to the experts. So the issue that we're talking about today is about junkets for ministers. Yes, recent controversy erupted. It's World Cup fever is on, and of course Goa is a football loving state, but does that justify ministers being sent to Brazil on a supposed study tour? Is the question marks being raised about that, though the tour has been cancelled, but the issue still is very hot. First, let's take you through the story.
While the FIFA World Cup kicks off in Brazil, little would the organizers know that it has kicked off a political storm in India. The opposition in Goa had come down heavily on the BJP-ruled state government for sending 6 legislators, including 3 ministers, on a 10-day junket to Brazil. This trip, costing 89 lakh rupees, was termed as a study tour, which will help in Goa's preparations for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in 2017, for which Goa is a possible venue. The flack received from all quarters, especially social media, has now forced the government to scrap this trip. Junkets are not new in Indian politics, and almost every state government exercises this right to keep their legislators happy. So are trips like these a genuine cause for betterment of management of sports in the country, or is it just being politically correct at the expense of our taxpayers?
All right, so let's put these questions from the Congress today. We have a member and sympathizer and supporter of the Congress party, Shehzad Poosanwala. Thanks very much for coming in, Shehzad. And from the BJP, member of the BJP and journalist and editor of Siyasat-Jadid, the popular Urdu newspaper, Dr. Ejaz Ilmi. Thank you very much for coming in, both of you. So, Shehzad, what do you make of this? I mean, it's a BJP-ruled state, so I'll give you the opportunity to draw first blood.
No, so as you rightly pointed out, 90 lakhs was going to be spent on 6 MLAs. So if you work out the maths, it's 15 lakhs per MLA. But if you check out the ticket rates, it costs you about 1.5 lakhs tickets, and if you take 30,000 per day, over 10 days it costs you 3 lakhs. 4.5, 5 lakhs would be spent. The question is, what was the other 10 lakhs per MLA being sanctioned for? And is it a new thing in Goa? Actually, it's not. The same MLAs, 6 MLAs, 3 of them were sent on a previous junket by Manohar Parrikar for the motocross in UK. And the same people were sent to Venice for studying garbage management system, and they regularly updated their Facebook posts with pictures on Venice's gondolas. They took pictures with Leaning Tower of Pisa. You know, you go there and you take pictures like this. So all of them were properly updated by them. So I do understand the educational value of these trips, especially sponsored by Manohar Parrikar for his croonies. I think it's a culture that's been there even with Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi, if you remember, in March 2004, had taken 23 journalists on a junket to London, paid for by Air India. How does the Chief Minister of Gujarat have the authority to dictate what Air India can spend on? That's a question mark. Their government was in power. You should ask them these questions. But I think it's a culture that runs deep in the BJP to spread the wealth and the achhe din amongst their supporters.
Okay, Dr. Ilmi?
Well, I think this is just being economical with the truth, and you're actually suffering from selective amnesia and imagining that it's only the BJP government and the BJP that does it. This entire mechanism of junkets, this freebies, this dole culture for your cronies, whether it's your bureaucrat friends or your political friends or your members of parliament, it runs through everywhere, obviously initiated by the fountainhead of the Congress party. The corruption starts and ends there, and that's where it starts from. Secondly, I won't justify this. I'm just moving beyond on a serious note. I mean, I don't want to get into this banter or light-hearted jousting with my friend Shehzad on this. What needs to be understood, there has to be a mechanism, because there's no quantifiable audit mechanism as to what benefits accrue to the state when they're spending taxpayers' money. There are serious issues to be addressed. The only thing good about this is that understanding what's coming, Mr. Modi's junior minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh, in his first speech said so, that in future all science and technology missions, which are invitations which come, he will not be heading the delegation. Senior scientists, Government of India, will be the ones who will be heading the delegation. So it's a start. Individual ministers have to put their own, clean up their own organ stables. It's important that every individual understands that you need to contribute towards saving the taxpayers' money.
All right, let's get in Sanjeev Singh. Sanjeev's, of course, a consulting editor and has covered politics for about almost 2 decades now. So, Sanjeev, as far as the junkets go, I mean, the part and parcel of the game as far as politics are concerned, isn't there? And many would say that what's wrong? I mean, if you've elected somebody to lead, then might as well try to get that person as much exposure so that he can bring that back.
Yeah, I mean, as far as India is concerned, I don't think, it's an issue of people going on junkets that is, really making the difference. I think what happened in the Goa case was simply the fact that, they only had politicians going. If they had a mix of, like what Dr. Ilmi was saying, that, if they had a couple of professionals who were a part of this tour, perhaps, so much people wouldn't have been created. But then again, that's the problem, where do you draw the line? We've seen in the recent past that how, every state government has, or even, big ministries have sent people on junkets. They call it study tours. People go and have fun and come back. No, I mean, it's something, it's something that it's all pervading in our system. I don't think there's any journalist worth his weight in India who has not gone on a junket. And then, when we sit and we have a discussion like this, so, I don't think junkets are bad per se, but if it should have the right mix of people, not only politicians. I mean, when you come back, you should at least have something that the whole state government or that, delegation can add value to, whichever field in which you've gone for the junket on.
Ishan, I agree with Sanjeev. There is no harm in going abroad and learning from the best practices abroad.
Yes.
But let us understand, when you do it so blatantly that there is not even an iota of cover that you're going for a trip that's mandated for the purpose. Here in the case of the Goa MLAs, they're going for the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. They're going there at the time when the tournament is on. So if you wanted to take best practices, experiences, you either go before or as it is done, you go after, because the Rio Games guys went to London after the games were over, etc., etc. So you actually go at a time when you can actually understand from their merchandising, from their other experts. Also, you take, as Sanjeev said, you take a group of people. Is there, whom we are taking in the delegation? The power minister and the fisheries minister. It seems very fishy that they take a fisheries minister. I mean, unless they want to learn best practices in fishing in Brazil, I mean, what are they taking him for? Not a single structural engineer, not an architect, not a project management guy, not a merchandising guy. And what do? They go during the thick of the movement where no Brazilian official is going to meet them, advise them, or talk to them about best practices. And please, do you think the traffic in Brazil and traffic in India has any similarity? So if they want to learn something, they are not going to learn anything by being in the stadium. They should have gone for Commonwealth Games. They should have gone for other games held in India and learned from states which are closer to their thing, to their circumstances.
All right.
Or from structural places that are closer to Goa. But they go for Brazil, and at the time when there is a World Cup and for the best matches. I think we can see through this. Going for a trip which is properly mandated and where you have certain objectives to fulfill is one thing, which was the case in the previous instances. But to do it this way so blatantly?
All right, but the Congress has also done it in the... I mean, I can quote you instances. I'll get back to that. I'll not get into the... I want to make it a larger issue, but let's get in a voice from the ground. Okay, we have Bhupesh with us. Bhupesh is the PTI correspondent in Goa, and thanks very much for coming in, Bhupesh, on the phone line. How is the public reaction to all this? Is the Parikar government really under fire? What do the people think about this entire controversy?
Actually, when Manar Parikar took over as a CM, he spoke about austerity measures, various austerity measures, and he started from himself, wherein he didn't take security, his staff was limited, and other measures. But the things what has happened now in form of this junket, he has clearly indicated that he has gone back on his word that he will be, he will be implementing these austerity measures. One thing. Another thing is that I just joined little late, but this fisheries minister, Averton Furtado, is also a footballer. Power Minister has no football background, but out of these 6 people, at least 4 are former footballers of Goa, because Avartan was playing for Salgaonkar Football Club. So there is this angle to that, but there's another angle to that is that why do they need to go at this point of time when the tournament is already on, and what would they really study, and would they come back, what would they actually learn from there? Another thing is that Congress, which has been criticizing the entire junket, they themselves were sending their sports minister in past. Their sports minister Pandurang Madkekar had gone for World Cup earlier, and he came back empty-handed. He spent so much of money. There was no audit of what he has spent and what he has come back with. So this is nothing new for Goa. Only thing is that now this junket was exposed by some people. It came as a big headline in national media, and it was stopped.
All right, but do the common people, I mean, what are the people saying about this on the ground? I mean, are they resentful of this, or do they understand, saying that, yes, if four of our ministers are former footballers, then might as well send them?
No. People completely disagree with the junket. They disagree with the fact that when state is reeling under economic crisis, we have no money from mining industry coming, and we are borrowing from various sources. That time we don't want to spend 89 lakhs just because some 6 legislators want to go to Brazil and see football. Naturally, there is a resentment amongst people down the line.
All right, but Dr. Ilmi, I mean, Manohar Parrikar is touted as one of the best chief ministers of the BJP. Yes. I mean, question marks being raised over there, aren't there?
No, I totally agree. This is it's something that's been going on for far too long. It won't stop easily, but we can structure it. We can have an institutional mechanism where this thing is thought out in advance, and procedures, quantifiable audits, and results coming out of such trips are undertaken in a mechanism where it's transparent and it shouldn't cause resentment. I'm very happy. One thing is very, very clear, that with the advent of media pressure and the kind of media scrutiny that every government is under, there will be intense pressure on the political class and the bureaucratic class to take decisions which are not contrary to expectations of the voters who voted them in. In this particular case, I'm glad Manohar Parrikar, who is a sensitive chief minister, actually called off the junket and said, if you want to go, you have to go on your personal expense. I'm very happy that the social media and the media, they brought the matter out in the public domain, and we're discussing it now. The politicians need to get sensitized, and the only way to do it is to raise issues which matter.
I just want to add one thing. The sensitive Mr. Manohar Parrikar actually went on to defend the decision first. I think Mr. Ilmi does not know. First, he defended the decision. He said that you in the media create negative stereotypes about politicians. You did see that in an interview to Indian Express. He said that. So we all know how sensitive he was. It was only when the public pressure got too much that he decided that now it's getting too hot to handle, so we'll scrap it. I have only 2 questions. First of all, any of these trips from any of the state governments get final clearance from PMO because they require diplomatic and political clearance. So Mr. Modi and his PMO very well knew that 6 MLAs of the BJP were going to enjoy Brazil and the sights and sounds and the football matches. And after speaking in parliament about austerity and the government for the poor, and in a state where the chief minister has gone to beg for funds after the mining industry has shut, he did nothing to tell them that please call this off. Second question is that if these so-called MLAs are now paying for their own trip, so they are going to pay 15 lakhs, their salary is 1 lakh per month, they have a total annual salary of 12 lakhs, where are they getting that money from? Are they going to pass this tab on to some other corporate, or are they actually going to, can Ijaz give us a guarantee that their income tax returns will reflect that 15 lakhs have been spent by each of these MLAs? Can he take that guarantee, or will it be passed on to the state in a surrogate manner?
No, I won't get into this voyeuristic delight of going to these things. I would leave it to various RTI activists and activists like you to inquire into facetious details that you're talking about. But what is very important is if they can pay for it themselves, you have to justify where the money is coming from. That's apparent. But I'm just going beyond this, beyond the realm of calling each other names and having this banter, jousting, and looking at each other's governments, what the Congress did and what the BJP.
Why didn't the PM intervene?
Let me correct you. The clearance comes from the Ministry of External Affairs, And
So you're saying Sushma did not intervene?
no, maybe they applied for it and they got the clearance. The fact
I'm
is,
telling you, they got the clearance. That's why they were ready to go. Their bags were packed. They were saying goodbye.
Sometimes clearance comes very.
I'm sure the Prime Minister does not go through every file that.
No, the PMO knows everything.
This mechanism of blaming Mr. Narendra Modi for everything that's happening in different states, whether it's Maharashtra, whether it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
All right.
It's like blaming this government for what happened in Karachi International Airport by Hafiz Saeed. Ridiculous statements. Again, for the Pune Teki murder, there's an NCP Congress government. It's ridiculous to blame Mr. Modi for everything.
But Sanjeev, the point being that at the end of the day, junkets are a reality, as you earlier pointed out. In terms of the law, is there any established practice or any standard practice, etiquette that is to be followed in terms of what constitutes a proper junket and what doesn't?
No, I mean, it's pretty open, and the discussion we are having as to who knows about it and who doesn't know about it. We have a federal structure in place. States are free to decide what they want to do. I mean, it's just a matter of getting the so-called permission from Ministry of External Affairs that matters. No one actually intervenes in these processes because at the end of the day, it's like you could be impinging on the rights of a state, and they want to do something. But the fact is that, these things happen. And at least Manohar Parrikar took the tough decision of saying no and let's cancel this trip, despite whatever reasons he may have had for going ahead with this trip. We've seen other state governments take, for example, the Samajwadi Party ruled UP government, that took a trip to 5 countries in January this year, despite, in the aftermath of the Muzaffarnagar riots that happened in September. They still went on the tour. You now have other state governments that are planning these.
We seem to have lost that connection. We'll try to re-establish that. But yes, it's a larger malaise. I mean, Shehzad, you might say that
it is a larger malaise. Of course, it is, and all
even the Congress has indulged in it.
Let me tell you that all political parties have their hands in their till. Okay, so they all are enjoying this. Now, what is the way forward for this kind of malaise? You saw in UP, BJP people also went along with Samajwadi Party people. However, the Congress people did not go. I must let you know about that. However, I'm not saying in the past Congress people must have not done. Now, let us have the final clearance has to come from Ministry of External Affairs and PMO. I feel that the PM, who seems to be very hands-on, can. I'm not saying, one second, just hear me out. Hear me out. Ijaz, hear me out.
It's a routine procedure.
Hear me out. I understand it's a routine procedure. I know that he cannot exercise direct control over the states, but he can create a moral charter of do's and don'ts.
Rule state is.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. From at least as far as our party is concerned, our leadership has instructed all our chief ministers that we must be very austere. So you will not see any of these things happening from Congress party's end. But we don't know about the other state governments, especially those who are celebrating Achhe Din. So we are saying that why don't you create a moral charter of the do's and don'ts of these junkets, how technical people should be on these trips if they have to be undertaken, and what should be the objectives and the expenses, etc. I think that can be done by the central government. It can go to all state governments. We would welcome if it came to our state governments also. Why doesn't the Prime Minister take the step?
You think the Congress party would be agreeable to a moral charter of...
We would be agreeable to anything that supports austere measures, but we are saying another thing. Can Ijaz say for sure that Modi will remove such a charter? He will never, because he himself has been the beneficiary and the largest orchestrator of these junkets. So why would he ever do it? He knows that this is how politics works. Let everyone have their hands in the till. He will never do it. Tell Ijaz to guarantee they will do it.
No, there's no question of having hands in the till. It's an individual chief minister or ministers who head these delegations. They need to decide that the composition of such a team has to be in sync with the aspirations, and they can deliver something. It's an institutional problem which needs to be structured and corrected by institutional mechanism. It can't happen overnight, but it needs to be tackled, because there's going to be so much hue and cry on every trip that even people going for genuine work and trying to genuine study tours, they will be hauled up.
Are you telling me?
How do you measure whether the study tour is successful or how much is a person
Exactly.
There has to be audit.
Now, can you tell me, can a junket which has been organized to watch two of the most important matches of the World Cup and comes under the pretext of studying the best practices in Brazil and has people, okay, maybe those people must have played football at some under 19 national level with no experience in event management. Can that be justified as a proper educational trip when there is money that is going because there's no mining happening in the state? Can you think that is justified? You can obviously make out whether it's a justified trip and whether it's not a justified trip just by the guest list of people going out.
But let's not take the incident in isolation.
I am saying it has not been cancelled. You keep saying it's been cancelled. It has been passed on as a tab to some other unsuspecting corporate body who will have to pick up the tab for these MLAs. Let us be very clear. He is not even willing to say that I assure that the MLAs will take it under their own expenses.
You know it all. You know the mechanism.
He's not ready to say that.
You're going to decide the parameters. You're going to decide where the tab is going. You're going to investigate. You're going to be voyeuristic. You're going to file the RTI.
It's not a question of voyeuristic.
If you're the one hand judge, jury, executioner, then so be it. But the fact is, there has to be an institutional mechanism for this.
That's exactly what I'm trying to prescribe to you. Institutional mechanism is that MEA, where you finally get the clearances, can be very clear about the guidelines. State governments get guidelines from central government on a whole range of issues which are not their domain. Can't this be one domain where center tells that these are the guidelines for undertaking trips, whether they are educational or otherwise? These should be the parameters that should be followed. Why can't it be?
Sanjeev, is this a possibility ever? I mean, everybody coming together and saying we'll create a charter, I mean, an all-party meeting over junkets?
I don't think so. Something like that will happen. It's like having a discussion. I mean, I just want to ask both Ijaz and Shehzad that question. If and when they become ministers, are they not going to take people on junkets?
Are you?
Well, I can assure you of one thing, that if I ever do become minister, although I don't want to become minister, I don't think that it is justified that private pleasure trips, the kinds of trips that the Goan MLAs were going for, should be undertaken by the taxpayers' money. I think it's immoral, unethical, and if not just illegal. It's completely unthinkable of in a democracy like us.
All right, Dr. Elmi, would you?
Well, I definitely allow my own conscience to decide whether I'm justified in taking a trip and taking people along. And it should be, the justification has to be mine. It should be as the accepted norms of governance and procedure. If it qualifies under those, then and it's imperative that this travel be undertaken, it should be undertaken.
But Sanjeev, at the end of the day, how do you measure whether somebody learned from a study tour or not? I mean, you can't measure that ever. So, I mean, this is almost an endless debate.
Of course, I mean, to take the recent example, there is a JDS MLC who has been elected on the JDS ticket, and he is now planning to take all these guys out on a junket. People who voted for him. His name is D.U. Mallikarjun.
Oh yeah, he's taking about 40 JDS
legislators on a junket to Sri Lanka. So
But that's a private tour, or is it a government-paid junket?
We'll have to get back on that. We lost that connection with Sanjeev, but I think it's a private tour. I think it's a private tour.
You can't impinge on people's private lives. I mean, if he's going in private life,
Ishan,
he's his child. Not at the government expense, not at taxpayers' expense. That is important. That's where the hue and cry is about.
But I feel that there is more to this. You see, when MLAs and MLCs start saying that they are going on their private money, I sometimes don't understand that they show their assets and incomes and liabilities in election affidavits of being in few lakhs. Then they are suddenly they are able to. I'm just saying.
The MLC was a builder, so but then that is the question
exactly.
of why the votes happened.
You see, Ishan, I want to get to a larger issue. The issue of taking people out on these junkets is an issue of patronage.
Yes.
It's an issue of political patronage, of buying political patronage and support. Democracy does not allow you to buy support. It allows you to win support through issues, ideologies and mandate. If this is the culture that we allow, even if it's on a private expense, I want to know how a public representative is spending that kind of money, and it is my right. It's not voyeurism. But Ijaz sees it as voyeurism. So I am scared. I'm scared that this is
You can file an application, you can get the authorities to
actually Ijaz, you can't file an RTI into people's income tax returns if you do know about the RTI Act.
Right.
It does not allow you to get that kind of information. So I am very scared that the people from the ruling ruling party cannot distinguish between political patronage, which is of the lowest order, and of proper political support building and of genuine tours which are necessary for India's development. If this is the level that they cannot even distinguish between the two, it's very unfortunate.
All right, I'll have to wrap the discussion up. I want to go across to Goa for one final word with Bhupesh. Bhupesh, thanks so much for standing by and listening to us. So, but I mean, do you think this is an issue that will keep repeating itself in Goa, or is it something that the next time the government surely would be conscious about?
In fact, even if it happens, we don't know whether we'll know about it, because there must be so many pilots sanctioned, so many junkets sanctioned. People do go and they come back. Only when there is some expose by someone, then only we come to know. If someone had not to speak about this junket also, then we would not even known that so legislators have gone to see football match at our own cost, and they would have come back empty-handed. And I personally think this will continue, but they will be more cautious this time that media doesn't know about it and social activists doesn't know about it, so that they can nicely go and come back without any
caution Bhupesh, I just want to caution you that I have been told by my sources that a trip of 4 crore rupees is being undertaken now, has been planned for the exposition of Saint Francis in Europe. So please keep your eyes and ears out for that. And I want to thank Dr. Ilmi. He's being very sporting, even though he's being very unconvincing.
All right, go ahead, Bhupesh. You want to add something?
No, yeah, correct. That's what I had. It has slipped off my mind that 4 crore they have sanctioned for publicizing Saint Francis Xavier's exposition in Goa. That's going to happen later this year. And also we don't understand why someone has to go out and publicize such an event which has been, it's a decennial exposition which happens. Many people know about it, and you don't require a special publicity in places like US or especially Europe for such exposition. But after this Brazil junket, I personally feel that Parrikar should at least review this one, because this is much bigger than the Brazil junket. It is 4 crore that they are going to spend just in the name of publicity. They will go to some states, they will enjoy there and they will come back. They will do nothing for the state and publicizing.
Ironically, Saint Francis would have not approved of that, given his austere culture and the way he lived.
All right. I mean, as far as whether it is functional for the government or not, that is for the government to justify and the government to battle out. But Bhupesh, thanks very much for coming in and providing us the ground reality on this particular issue. Thanks so much for joining us from Panji. All right, final words, gentlemen. Shehzad, I'll start with you, but Ijaz sir will get the
Like I was saying, it's very sporting of Ijaz to come and defend this indefensible expense being undertaken by his party members. He's done a sporting job, but an unconvincing one. I request even now that MEA and the Prime Minister, who speaks of austerity, should step out of his own culture of political patronage, which he's been doling out in Gujarat, and come out with a list of guidelines, do's and don'ts, which are implementable and should go to all states, Congress or BJP.
And the Congress will certainly follow those rules.
The Congress has already taken our own leadership's advice on board that there should be austerity in every action of government.
All right.
You know, all this is very well said. Good words are being used, and the Prime Minister's office and the MEA is being talked about. We have a federal structure. The states decide how their money is being used, and the state has its own budgets and revenue departments and finances to take care of. And they only seek permission in terms of approval for the Ministry of External Affairs. That's the procedure. It's up to individual states and chief ministers and politicians in the high-powered chairs to take a conscious call as to justify actions which can be called junkets. No amount of taxpayers' money can be used. I totally agree with that. I'm very happy that Dr. Manohar Parrikar, he took 3 days' time, but he took the right decision. It's very important to actually understand, and if there's a broha, if there's an uproar by the social media, by the residents, by everybody else, if you're sensitive enough to understand and you call it off, that's a greater act than to actually go ahead where various states chief ministers just go ahead and they don't care. It's important that to be sensitive to media, to scrutiny, to public pressure, all that.
Any assurances on the 4 crores that are going to be spent in the next few months by the government?
I have no idea.
All right, so let the pressure come in from media.
So he's basically saying that till the media does not pressure us, our conscience won't wake up.
No,
that's what he said. That's what he said.
The government of Goa is well within its right to decide how they need to spend the
All
money.
right.
They will have their own justifications. They don't have to justify
All right.
to you, me,
I mean,
or
we
anybody
can't
else.
prevent-
Public money, nobody has
We
the
are not-
right to decide how to spend it. It is to be done in a transparent
All right, so
manner
let's
as
go on.
democracy.
I don't want to be the
is.
individual Lokpal for every chief minister. I don't hold that authority. I don't expect anybody else. They'll decide. If they're justified, they'll go ahead with it.
All right, fair enough. So this certainly is an issue that needs to be addressed, and hopefully our politicians can become a unified force and really talk about junkets and whether they're really helping them and helping them learn much more. I personally feel that they should be encouraged to get as much exposure as possible, but then what are they getting back is, of course, a matter of question. Thanks very much, Azad and Dr. Ilbi, for coming in, and thanks very much, Sanjeev, for joining us. Well, that was it in our little presentation. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.